Status, Maximus here again, this time with a review of the Astro Pneumatic Flex Offset Flare Nut Wrench Set. These are the only Astro Pneumatic tools I own. I never really heard of them before until I found them at a, it's kind of a flea market kind of store, kind of like Harbor Freight, but they sell all sorts of products, including near expired food. It's kind of weird, but they have this huge tool section of all sorts of weird tools, a lot of Tecton stuff. Kind of an odd place. And he had these, and they were, I think, like 40 or 50 bucks. They weren't very expensive at all, and they were surprisingly nice when I looked at them. I was really surprised. One odd thing is there's absolutely no part numbers printed on these tools. Let's go ahead and take a closer look at some of these, because I've been pretty impressed. Now, you can just see by the reflection, they actually have a true satin chrome finish. And not just a rough chrome. They're one of the few tools I've seen which would really meet the definition of satin chrome. And as an example, here's just a quick comparison so you can see how the chrome looks compared to polished chrome, old proto chrome, proto rough chrome, and Craftsman. I swear I need more hands sometimes. So, besides the nice finish of the chrome, they are laser etched, so they will disappear a little bit after they wear. Laser etching is nice in some ways because you get great detail, and it's super cheap for manufacturers because you need a laser etching machine and it lasts forever. Unfortunately, it's not as easy for the end user because it's just harder to see the numbers and deal with them, and they wear off. So on to the other aspects of these. They're all fluted. They're pretty well sized. They have pretty tight flex joints, which I was really surprised about. They do have screws, Allen fasteners. And here's another aspect of them, is the centering of the screw into the buckle there is near perfect. And here's this side on both sides. And if we look at all these, they're all like that. Whoop. Do it this way because it's easier to see. You can see that the centering, I mean, it's amazing. There's so many tools where they have flexes in them, but the screws and the holes are never really drilled perfectly, and you can see how well rounded the buckles are too. They're also near perfectly rounded. You look at any breaker bars or any of that stuff where they make the round part, they sand and grind it, and it's a little bit lopsided. It's rarely that it's actually like perfect like these are. Another nice aspect of these was that the larger sizes are 12-point, yet the smaller sizes are 6-point. And I thought that was actually real forward-thinking engineering, doing 6-point in the smaller ones just because on flare nuts they're real susceptible to stripping. So they only do that in the larger ones. And they have a little protrusion here. So with the flare nut, because of the way it's cut, they need to be extra thick so that these don't spread apart. Unfortunately, that can also make it so that they don't fit in as many places. So to kind of compensate for that, they have a little protrusion so that it can sink a little deeper. Or if you're having an issue where the wide part is hitting, you may still get enough grip to get it off. The other thing is, of course, that they are offset so that you can clear something this way, and they tend to reach in tighter spaces. Even normal flexes, if you have, a tight spot, you're kind of at a steep angle and you can't get a lot of force. The nice thing about offset is that you can have the handle at a right angle and still get into a little pocket or a tight area. I also wanted to mention that the slot is really well centered. And in closely inspecting these, there's a lot of tools, even Snap-ons, where you get sets and, there's one socket or one tool that, wasn't quite perfect. These, as far as inspecting them, how they've been sized and ground, how centered the holes are, this whole set is about as close to perfect as I've seen. As a matter of fact, if I can just get in the light, you can see just a little line right there, like the part shifted in the machining setup. That's literally, that tiny little defect is literally the only defect in this entire set of wrenches. And so they're different sizes on each end, so you get a 6-piece set, but you get 12 sizes. You get 8, 9, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, and 19. And I think that's pretty neat too, because it's all single millimeter increments all the way up through 19. So anyway, I've looked around. These still can be found online. And I would really recommend these wrenches. These flare nut wrenches have really been just my go-to wrenches. Especially not just to flex, but you get a little extra length. But since both sides flex, this extra length doesn't get in your way when you don't want it to be in your way. Also, flare nuts do tend to get jammed, and the real nice thing about these flexes is that you can get a lot of extra area to grab onto and really hook your fingers onto that get a lot of force and a lot of control. So I find that that in and of itself makes these a lot easier to use. So anyway, just another tool review from Catus Maximus. I really appreciate you guys subscribing, and to those of you who haven't subscribed, please do. Catus Maximus out.